it's.
But I'd like to say the other side is just as much an ideology.
Yeah.
That's so disturbing to me because when you hear, which is why I don't ever say to people I'm conservative anymore, because to me the word has been so stolen that I don't find any kind of home in my mind with what people say it is, because the American dream, just that phrase, has become an absolute ideology. And for instance, it has no contact with the real world at all. For instance, that everybody can make it, or that everybody can get a job, or that everybody can succeed. But it's just a total myth. I don't know if it ever was true, but it's certainly not true now. And yet, people put it forward as, you know, that's their doctrine of faith. It's become a religion. There's just, you know, that's what they believe in, and they believe it fervently. And there's no point trying to point out evidence because, you know, evidence doesn't matter. It's just that's what they're going to keep repeating for a daily basis. There's no contact with reality whatsoever. So I think that is the problem, as you just said it, that people are just repeating, really, in a sense, slogans. Neither, I mean, it isn't a question of two sides, it's a question of, you know, 100 sides.
Yeah.
Nobody interested in what the facts on the ground are, or the evidence. Like, you know, how true is this? But, you know, in Christianity, it seems we've often done the same thing. I mean, it's my pride, having taught children. If you teach in a really good school, which I have had the good fortune to do several times, your big desire is to teach children to think, to question, to not accept what you're saying. Well, I've taught in many Sunday schools, and that's never been the goal. The goal is not to get the children to think. The goal is not to say to them, as I have always found one should do, you know, do you think the story of Noah is fair? Would you want to worship a God who killed every man, woman, and child? And then to bring out the fact that the Bible says, just to say what I think the biblical answer is, no, it was not fair. The Bible says specifically that until the time of the second coming, even the action of God does not produce justice. So no, it was not fair. You know, well, it seems to me that's what you should be doing in Sunday school. But you can't find, because I've tried, any curriculum in any church system, in any denomination, that sees the purpose of Sunday school the way you see the purpose of a good class in a good school, where you're trying to get somebody to think, question,
Discover,
discuss. So, you know, so then is it surprising, as my father used to say, that, you know, it seems to be a universal problem that most churches, their children go through Sunday school and around 14 or 15, they don't want to come anymore. Well, it's not surprising. Just see what they've been given. I mean, why would they want to come and spend their Sunday morning or their Saturday night or whatever sitting doing that? You know, so I think it's a big problem, the fact that we're scared of looking at the facts, and we're scared of having the people we teach or our own children look at the facts. So we're not really helping people to do that.
Yeah, the big concern you find in some Christian literature, Sunday school and otherwise, about how do I get my children to obey me? You know, that shouldn't be the primary concern. Primary concern is how do I wake my children to responsibility? You know, you want your child not to learn to obey, you want your child to learn to discern. And obedience is one of the aspects of discerning what is good and wise. Sometimes. But, you know, as you know, we all have to be aware of the fact that all ideologies want believers.
Eric Hoffer. You probably remember Eric Hoffer, maybe nobody else does, but it's a good book to find secondhand. I'm sure you still can. It's called The True Believer. He was a longshoreman. He had some kind of disease, so he never had any education because he went blind when he was young, and suddenly his sight came back when he was an adult. And he was a longshoreman who turned into a philosophy professor at the University of California with no formal education whatsoever, because he was just a brilliant man. And I had the wonderful good fortune of having him come to the private school where I was teaching in the 60s and lead a discussion. It's a very good book. It's called The True Believer. And unfortunately, he thought it explained all belief, and I think he's wrong there. But he's right, it explains most belief. And that is, you have a kind of person who wants the security of believing. And he went through, as Udo did today, the ideologies, and he would dismiss, because I asked him, it was a school situation, and I said, do you leave open the possibility that belief can sometimes be something else? And he said no. He'd come to that conclusion. I think he's wrong. But I must say he's, accurate that that's not why most people believe what they believe. It's not because they've checked it out. They believe what they believe for convenience or for safety or whatever. And it's a huge danger. So that's why, ever since, our oldest daughter's 43, ever since before we had our children and I was reading books, I have never found, and maybe you all can show me a book, but I have never found a book written by a Christian that I have ever advised anybody to read for childcare. Because precisely, I think they're teaching people the wrong thing. They're not teaching them to be thinking, discerning human beings. That is not their goal. They want people to be believers. In the sense Schaeffer said it, they want them to be true believers. Well, that's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
I think that's a true dilemma of all societies. There are many people who have been raising the questions, and usually what happens, they're killed.
Yeah.
They're called, the Cathars, the Albigensians, or in the Arab world, we have the people who speak up, and they're assassinated. They're fatwas.
Yeah. So. We heard the other day when Neil Ferguson presented his book Civilization, a reference to the question that Luther was asked, whether a printing house in Basel should print the Quran in whatever language, German or something. German. And Luther said yes, by all means, so that people can read it and discover the mistakes. It's the confidence that you need to figure things out, and when you do that skillfully and have that material, then the truth will be obvious and the mistake will be clear. Well, a lot of people are afraid of that, either because they believe there is no such thing as truth, or because they believe that, my truth is so unstable, I have to hold on to it, that I need to, in a sense, make my children follow.